Hey, Red Raider fans, how we feeling tonight after that 35-11 victory over Houston? Houston, another previously unbeaten team that you go and dominate for the most part, control the game almost throughout. Um, Still, I don't want to be like too negative, but really sloppy on offense. The defense was completely dominant, but man, the offense was pretty sloppy at times. They struggled a lot in the red zone. Uh, they missed a couple of field goals, 8 penalties again, so that's 22 penalty weeks. Um, that's sloppy. But the fact that Tech is still winning in dominant fashion, despite playing sloppy ball on offense, is a really good sign. But they're going to have to get that cleaned up if they want to reach all the goals that they want to reach in this season. But that being said, there's a lot of positive things to talk about. I'm going to go over some stats so some people can get in here, ask some questions. If you have questions, fire away. We'll chat for at least 30 minutes. If it's a good discussion, we'll go even longer. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little low on energy at this point tonight, but hey, you know what? Who cares? Texas Tech won. It was a really nice victory, so let's talk about it. All right, 552 total yards for Texas Tech. Again, saying they played sloppy, I guess I'm holding them to a high standard, but I think, if you watch the game, you saw how they did in the red zone, where they struggled for the most part. Like I said, missed a couple of field goals, had that fumble, but they still scored 35 points, could have scored another touchdown, most likely, as Houston was gassed at that point. Tech was just running it down their throat. But 552 yards, 345 through the air, 207 on the ground. Jacoby Williams and Cameron Dickey had fantastic games. Jacoby Williams had 107 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaged 5.6 yards per carry on 19 carries. Cameron Dickey just missed going over 100 yards. He had 21 carries for 98, almost 5 yards a carry. And, oh, by the way, he had that 69-yard touchdown catch and run that was really sweet. Coy Aikens struggled early. A lot of the receivers did. Him and Caleb Douglas I see them being only credited with 1 drop apiece, but I mean, they dropped more than that. But Coy ended up having a really good game, especially in the second half. Caleb Douglas, too. I mean, Coy had 10 catches for 81 yards. Caleb Douglas had 7 for 114. But let's talk about the defense, because that's really, I mean, what are we talking about here? The defense was fantastic. They held Houston to, again, 11 points, just 267 yards total. They averaged just 3.4 yards per rush, and a lot of that was on those quarterback powers and counters they were running, which got Connor Wigman, their starting quarterback, knocked out of the game. I felt like the backup quarterback actually played better. He had that touchdown pass on his first snap, ran a little. He had 59 yards rushing, so I thought he actually played better than Connor Wigman, but not good enough. I want to see some of the stats real quick, and then I'll look and see what comments you all have. Jacob Rodriguez, he only played a couple snaps in the second half. I think he's okay. I haven't heard what McGuire said in the post game, but he did come back after originally leaving in the second half. And on that 4th and 2 play, he got a pass. He batted down a pass. So J-Rod had that awesome interceptions, 2 pass breakups, 2 tackles for loss, and 5 tackles, and about a half, to be honest. John Curry was good. He filled in there for J-Rod. I think it's at will, inside linebacker. A.J. McCarty came in and played well. But David Bailey was an absolute beast stud. 3 tackles, all for loss, 2 sacks, a quarterback hurry, a forced fumble. He got held a million times too. A couple of them were called. Had his helmet ripped off a couple of times. They called it, I think, once. But he was amazing. Romello Height was outstanding as well. Tons of pressure on the quarterback. Lee Hunter doing his thing. I mean, the whole defensive front played outstanding. Brendan Jordan did give up that touchdown. Tech blitzed. It was almost kind of like an all-out blitz. He was kind of left on an island, gave up that touchdown, but he came back and got a pick in the second half. He's been playing really well, so that was good to see for him. All right, let's see if we have some comments. Luke the Goat says, who do you think has impressed you the most from the start of the season? Woo, that's tough. That's tough. On defense, I mean, I got to go with J-Rod. But really the entire defensive front. I mean, I could just as easily say David Bailey or Lee Hunter or Skylar Gill-Howard or Romello Height. But I'll go with J-Rod. And then on offensive line's been pretty good, minus the penalties. But I'm going to go with Jacoby Williams. That's my guy. Jacoby, I said going the season, that was before Q went down. Imagine how good the offense would be in the team if they had Q too, who's projected to start. But even with him in play and thinking Q was going to play a lot, I thought Jacoby was destined for stardom this year, and I think that's what we're seeing, to be honest. I think he's an amazing player, dynamic, just a dynamic player that can do so many things for you, both out of the backfield and lined up as a receiver. So Jacoby Williams is quite the weapon. Kelly King says, we were sloppy drop balls early, but we had enough. Yeah, I think that's my ultimate takeaway is like this team hasn't come close to reaching its potential on offense. On defense, I mean, it's been as dominant as Tech, I think, has had it of a defense so far, through 5 games. There's that stat, Tech's won by 5 games in a row by 20-plus points for the first time since 1950-something that ESPN had it. That's an amazing stat. Going to be in the top 10 for the first time since, just off the top of my head without looking, maybe 2008. So I think they reached 10th. Well, I guess that is the top 10, but I'm saying inside 10, like single digits for the first time. Because they started 7-0 in 2013 and reached number 10 before losing 5 in a row. But no, the fact that they played 2 wins by 24 points on the road back to back at Utah, and I guess there was the open week in between, and then Houston. Again, both previously unbeaten before playing Tech, and you crush them. And Tech committed a combined 22 penalties in those 2 games and turned the ball over 3 times. So now they won the turnover battle in those games, but it's sloppy. And now the drops cropped up, which I wasn't expecting, to be honest. I want to give some credit to Houston. Monty Joe and I were talking about going into the game that their secondary was legit. We felt like that was the strength of the team. They made some good plays, but there were some plays where there was not even a defender like Coy, who I just said he had a really good second half. On that screen pass, that would have been a touchdown early in the game, and there was no one around him. It was blocked up. It looked really good. Definitely a first down, probably a touchdown. There was a couple of – Caleb Douglas had a couple other ones, but both of them ended up having good games, but that's sloppy. They look sloppy on offense. All the times that they were held to field goals in the red zone, and they still won by 24. I had a couple of buddies, texting me, and basically he's like, that game could have been 70-10 or something like that. And I felt like it could have, but still a nice win. They got to clean that up if they want to, achieve their goals that they want to this year. But man, a lot of potential, a lot of talent on this team. Tim Hilson, my wife and I were at the game tonight, and we just got home. It was so nice to take it over the U of H Stadium. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Just saw a tweet from McGuire, thanking all y'all, and y'all were amazing. All y'all that went to the game. They mentioned it on TV several times. We could hear the Raider power chants at least. I think I heard 2. What a great fan base, Tech's fan base. And I'm glad y'all are getting rewarded, with what looks like a special season, at least through 5 games. But let's be honest, it looks like it's going to be a season we're going to talk about. But, Tech also got another big commit, number 1 defensive lineman in the country, 2027 defensive lineman, Jalen Brewster out of Cedar Hill, 6'3", 300 pounds, monster defensive lineman. He's also a running back, and not just a goal line back, but he watches highlights on the huddle. He committed to Tech at around halftime tonight, so they're not going anywhere. They're going to reload. And so this is the start of maybe a new tradition of Tech having dominant defensive lines. It's pretty cool. Billy Blueheart said, dope win. Watching this defense is so fun. Yeah, I agree. I couldn't wait to see Tech play again just to see this defense. I mean, watching David Bailey and Romello Height basically compete for sacks on almost every, obvious passing down is something to behold. It seemed like they had more of a fight between each other to try and get to the quarterback than they did from the offensive lineman. And why UH decided to single up David Bailey, I'll never understand. I know you can't double everybody, and you got to double Lee Hunter. But how you don't double David Bailey, going to be a first-round draft pick, probably All-American this year, I will never understand. But, it didn't work out for them. From Syntex, I'm still betting Tech doesn't give up 17 points against any Big 12 team. I'm not so sure about that. I think Arizona State, maybe even Kansas State. I know people are going to throw stuff at me. I know they're struggling. They choked against Baylor today. But I just keep thinking about Avery Johnson running. That is what worked. Really, a couple of long passes for Houston, but really the quarterback counter and power and quarterback run design runs is what worked best for Houston today. And he got their starting quarterback knocked out. But, Avery Johnson, just thinking about him now, different defense, different year, all that stuff. But beating Kansas State there is very tough. So I'm still counting that as a tough game. And maybe Kansas State can score 17 or more. And then BYU, I think BYU's the only team I've seen so far in the Big 12 I feel like can hang with Tech in the trenches possibly for 4 quarters. But the game's here. So those are the 3 games where I think Tech might give up more, but I don't know how much more. Billy Blueheart again says McGuire said Rodriguez strained his calf. Okay, good. It wasn't his chest contusion. That was somebody else. Strained calf, yeah. J-Rob will be fine. Thanks for adding that in there. There's so much going on. I haven't been able to check out the post-game presser yet, and I wanted to get on here and do this with y'all because several of y'all on Inside the Red Raiders were asking, and some guys on Twitter and another video I posted on here. Oh, before I don't want to forget. Yes, I'm wearing a Texas Tech basketball hat. I got it at Red Raider Outfitter, sponsors this YouTube channel and the radio show I'm on, the Rock and Pregame, Rock 101 FM here in Lubbock. So obviously, I'm a big fan of Red Raider Outfitter. But like I said in a previous video, I always have been going back to the 90s since I was a kid. You can get great gear, all kinds of great stuff. Of course, if you're watching this, you're probably very familiar with Red Raider Outfitter. But, man, the hat game to me has gone up. They've taken their game to another level with all the Adidas apparel. So check it out. All right. Man, let's see. A lot more comments here. Mr. Sachs 3000 said that stadium sucks. I'm still trying to get the hell out of here. Yeah, my girlfriend and I went to Morgan Wallen in the same area. It was at whatchamacallit, where the Texans play. I'm running on empty, like I said at this point. And it was one of the I had to just bribe somebody a couple $100 to get us out of there because we would have been there forever after that Morgan Wallen concert. And obviously, I've been to a lot of big events with a lot of people, a lot of crowds. And something's messed up with how Houston, how their Uber works and all that stuff and just their traffic. So I don't envy that. Dean says, if Tech gets in a real battle of a game, maybe during the playoffs at this point, how will the team react? Can they pull out a close game? Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't think we have the answer to that. I think they can, but we don't know that yet. I think they will be tested by somebody, probably one of the teams I mentioned before. UCF had a good win today too. Sitting here, I agree with you. It's hard for me to imagine most of the teams really being a threat to Tech in the Big 12 right now. But crazy stuff happens, and there are a couple opportunities for Tech to be tested still in the season. Sigma 3000 said, who you got? This year's Tech team are the 85 Bears. Ditka versus a Hurricane. Wait, the name of the Hurricane is Hurricane Ditka. Yeah, no, I think I'd take the 85 Bears. But just that's funny. I've been actually having a lot of texts and conversations with people after the game tonight with wondering, how good is Tech? Who are the best teams really? Penn State falling to UCLA, which just shocks me. Texas going to the swamp and getting humbled. They already had 2 losses, and they have Oklahoma next week. So it's interesting to see who the best. You have Miami. You got to throw Tech in there. Ohio State, Oregon. Who am I missing? Georgia, maybe. Georgia is obviously one of the best teams in the country, but are they that top level right now? Do they look like that? Talent-wise, of course, they're absolutely one of the best teams and one of the best programs. But the fact that I'm even having these conversations with people on here and we're not like laughing out loud is pretty amazing. It's pretty remarkable. Jeremy Ledbetter says this Tech team can beat you in so many ways. Versatility. I agree with that. I mean, first off, the defense, that's a problem. But then special teams. Now tonight was rough with the 2 missed field goals, but overall has been pretty solid, minus some penalties and those 2 misses. And then offensively, yeah, they can line up and run the ball on you with a couple of different options, very different styles and backs with Cam Dickey and Jacoby. And then the receivers, when they're on, are just so talented. They're a matchup nightmare in a lot of ways, not as dominant, but like the defensive line in terms of like you can't double everybody. You know, eventually somebody is going to be open, going to get favorable coverage. And, you know, a lot of times Barron's pretty good against zone covers too, so you don't really want to do that. So I agree with you. Very versatile, very talented Tech team this year. Jeremy Ledbetter said could have been 49-11 at least. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it should have been – I think Tech could have put up 60 if they hadn't been so sloppy, all those drops and penalties and whatnot. But again, I definitely, I'm not just saying this. I really believe this. I want to give Houston their secondary some credit. They competed. A couple of their defensive linemen played really hard, and they made some good plays. But Tech's got to be stronger going after the ball, man. That's the bottom line. They got to catch the easy ones for sure. D. Wayne says, from 1 to 10, how do you think UH played? From 1 to 10, how do you think 10 played? I'll say I'll give Houston a 7. I mean, they had a lot of turnovers. I'm sure their coach disagrees. But I think that those turnovers weren't like just terrible plays. I think the pressure was too much for Tech. Too much for Houston. Tech's pressure was just overwhelming. But I thought they played better than I was expecting, to be honest. I thought Tech probably had a 5, and that's mostly because of the defense, the sloppiness. Like, let's say the potential is 10. It would be like a 70-3 type score. I say a 5 or I'll say a 6. I'll say a 6 because the defense was dominant. But as a team, as a whole, you play this game 10 times. I think this may have been the lowest margin of victory. Like I couldn't believe how sloppy Tech was playing at one point on offense. And they still won by 24. And they knelt inside the 10 in the last minute. Crawford H says it was nice to see the final drive that we had the ball for nearly 7 minutes. Yeah, it was dominant. I mean, Tech completely dominated Houston in the trenches. Houston made some plays, don't get me wrong, on defense, but for the most part, it was complete domination in the trenches on both sides of the ball, which is what I was expecting, to be honest. Ernest said, still would like to see Hammond a little more in the future for longer than one play. I know Joey's word will cause controversy, but I think it would add more depth to the offense. I mean, I don't really disagree with you on that. It's a weird situation. Barron had a good game today. I mean, especially if you look at his stats. But he missed some open receivers. Some of his receivers that he did find open actually didn't do him a bunch of many favors with the drops. But I get what you're saying, but I think this team needs to stick with Barron for now. He's the leader of the team. Jeremy Ledbetter said aliens, Alliant. Oh, okay. Okay. D. Wayne says, I wish TT would adopt the classic double T like TT basketball had. Yeah, I think you're going to see, they've already revealed some of them, some throwbacks this year, I think with the classic double T, so that'd be cool. D. Wayne says, what did you think of the Hammond packages when he came in? I mean, honestly, it was kind of awkward. I'd almost rather him come in for a series than just give him a play here and there. It messes up Barron's rhythm, it's weird just to go in there for one play. But that's just my opinion. Oh, Alliance Stadium in Houston. Is that what it's called? It's called something else. I guess I have the internet. I could look it up. I thought Alliant was Vegas. But you're probably right. NRG Stadium. Something like that. Austin Rushing said 6-7. That's fine. Yeah, NRG. Thanks, D-Wayne. Yeah, I think Alliance Vegas. That was cool. We'll go in there for Big 12 Media Day. Not this last summer, but the summer before. J-Tech says, I still can't believe they stole Skylar's touchdown. The replay they didn't show Roberts. Yeah, the refs were absolutely terrible. And it's nice that Tech was so dominant that it didn't make that much of a difference. And it's not like Houston didn't get some bad calls either. That muff punt that Coy had, where they called interference, I have no idea what they saw there. That was ridiculous. But Tech, I mean, they could have called holding on Houston's offensive line really like every play. I mean, I know that's a saying, you call holding every play, but they really could have called holding or, illegal hands to the face and whatnot almost every play. Like they had no answer. Even when they were holding, they couldn't stop, especially David Bailey, Lee Hunter, and Romello Height. So, then that would have, I think, who knows what the score would have been if they had gotten that. Glenn N says definitely Tech has to be better in the red zone. Virgil needs more touches. I agree. I like Reggie Virgil. I think Barron has a ceiling when the play calling gets stagnant. Yeah. Austin Rushing says I'm in such a good mood. Good, you should be, man. Tech is 5-0, going to be inside the top 10, single digits. Recruiting is off the chain right now. It's just ridiculous how amazing Tech football recruiting is going right now. There's just a lot to be excited about. And honestly, we're at a stage of optimism that I doubted at some point that Tech could ever be at. So it's unbelievable. It's amazing. Don't wake me up if this is a dream, because it's great. And I really love it for all the Tech fans out there. Well, great, loyal fan base. I'm not just saying that. Y'all know it to be true. Y'all are amazing. D. Wayne says, how was the crowd? Yeah, I'm not sure. Glenn said, positives. Our front seven is ridiculous. Might have 2 All-Americans. Yeah, well, yeah. Obviously, J-Rod and David Bailey. But Lee Hunter? I don't know if he's going to have the stats for it. But anybody actually paying attention and watching him play, he is right up there with J-Rod and David Bailey in terms of being so important. I mean, he takes up 2 blockers virtually every play, and it doesn't matter. I mean, he just plows through them and completely collapses the pocket on passing games or blows up running games. So Lee Hunter is amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a first-round pick. Ja Tech says, no joke, how good is Jacob Rodriguez? What a stud. Yeah, that's what I think of every time I see him. Honestly, I looked over my girlfriend watching the game tonight and said, I think I have a man crush on J-Rod. Don't judge me. Is there anybody cooler than J-Rod? I mean, the mustache, the cowboy hat. I mean, his wife is a Black Hawk helicopter pilot. And not to mention, he's just a complete badass on the field. He just seems to save the day. Even like tonight when he was with the calf injury, thanks for updating that. When he went back in, he got the big pass breakup or bat down on 4th down. So he of all the teams and all the players I've covered, he has a knack for making the play when you have to have a big play. J-Rod almost always seems to come through. And that is an unbelievable quality to have. Not to mention what a leader he is, just his technique with just as a tackler. I know it's not as fun as talking about sacks and interceptions and stuff and forced fumbles, but just as a tackler, fantastic. What a cool dude. And great football player. Sigma 3000 says, remember when Tech was just a basketball school? Yeah. That wasn't that long ago, of course. Lee Hunter, most hits without a helmet. Yeah, I understand the rule. I get why they do it. But Lee Hunter doesn't need any protection from the refs. He lit Wigman up without a helmet. So it reminded me of Jason Witten back in the day with the big catch and run after his helmet got knocked off against the Eagles. That was cool. D. Wayne, with Tech's success, with Tech's 2 coordinators going to leave for head coaching jobs? Best case scenario, right? I mean, you want your coordinators to have success, be able to follow their dreams. I think we need to get out of the mentality of thinking about Texas Tech being worried about losing coaches, especially assistant coaches. That's going to happen. And those jobs have become, look at the defensive coordinator job now compared to 5 years ago. Tech's going to invest. You look at the recruiting, like I was mentioning before, guys they're bringing in. It's a much better job than it has been. And offensive coordinator at Texas Tech, what a great job. Tech's going to put up points. It hasn't had problems recruiting, especially the skill position players for a long time. Basically this century. And Tech's going to, be extremely competitive in terms of what they can offer those coaches. So even if these guys leave, the next, Joe McGuire has backup plans for his backup plan in terms of those kind of things, the coaching staff, and I think I fully believe and trust that Tech will be able to replace them. I understand you don't want them to go, but you got to start thinking differently, in my opinion, about Texas Tech and what this program is, the way it's rising up. Wesley Ball said, Lee Hunter is such an unsung hero. Guys like him just don't get the stats, but they're played outside. Yeah, if you know football, you see Lee Hunter. What an absolute beast stud. I mean, he's one of my favorite players on the team. He's one of the most dominant players I've ever seen play at Texas Tech. The fact that he's his size, 6'2", 6'3", 330, and he's that agile and has that high of a motor, just that strong and that quick, that combination, that's what you need out of that player. And there's just not a lot of teams that get those kind of those freak defensive tackles. Tech's trying to get in that group with the Bamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, those kind of teams that just really get those monster. I got to admit, even Texas, that get those really just. I mean, seeing like 300-pound guys do flips and stuff I'm not saying Lee's done flips, but I've seen it before in guys that end up like at those schools, and Tech's starting to get into play for those guys, and Lee Hunter is, a huge part of that, is kind of starting that trend. And it doesn't get the stats, but I wouldn't want anybody else in the Big 12, any other defensive tackle in the Big 12 at Texas Tech. I think he's the best, or nose guard. Jeremy Ledbetter said, who's the best team in Texas, A&M or Texas Tech? That's a good question. Now, usually my bias doesn't hurt me, but A&M, going back to the days when I went to Tech, I'm just not a fan. But that being said, A&M looks really good this year. Looks like they got some coaching things figured out. Obviously, they're talented. Talent hasn't been a problem for them for a while. It'd be really cool to see them play in the playoffs, wouldn't it? What if Tech hosted A&M in the first-round playoff game, which that was – A&M maybe end up being rated too high for that at some point, the way they're playing. But at least I think after the Utah game, that was at least I saw some predictions that could happen. I can't say A&M right now, but my honest opinion is I don't know. I really don't. But they're both really good. I would really like – it's a shame we won't get to see that game this year unless they play in the playoffs. But they look to be clearly the two best teams in Texas. But I tell you what, Baylor's pretty salty. I don't think they're on A&M or Tech's level, but they're salty. They have some kind of fighting spirit. The way they came back against Kansas State, they're just a tough team, led by a quarterback from Lubbock, of course. So that's somebody to watch. They might get better as the season goes along. Remember that time we beat Houston and landed another 5-star recruit? That was awesome. It was awesome. I really hope that y'all and that we don't get numb to this kind of stuff. I mean, Tech just beat an undefeated team, in-state conference rival, I guess. I don't know if it's a rivalry when you beat them 12 out of the last 13 times, but you know what I mean. By over 3 touchdowns, and we're kind of oh, they look sloppy, and they got the number 1 defensive lineman in the country. I mean, if you're not happy tonight, when are you going to be happy? I guess Big 12 championship or national championship, it's pretty awesome. If Tech goes undefeated, we are top 5 and top playoff spot. Oh, wow. That's from Ledbetter. D. Wayne says, UT has lost 2 games, ranked 9. How far will they fall with 2 losses to the only competent opponents? Can't be a top. Well, they'll still be in the top 25. I'd be shocked if they're not in the top 25. But, I wouldn't be surprised if they get at least 1 or 2 more losses this year. I mean, they just don't look right on offense, to be honest. Wesley Ball says, how good is Tech secondary, specifically Pollock? I know a lot of success is in part because of the D-line. Well, Pollock was good at Mississippi State. I think he's been better than I was expecting. He's a dang good football player. Every practice I went out to, and he was battling with those. He was always Virgil or Douglas, and he was battling with them toe-to-toe. He's looked great this year. He almost got his 4th pick. He did have that pass interference, which I didn't think he kind of panicked, but which happens. Let's face it, it happens, even to the best DBs. But he almost got his 4th pick of the season. that was an offensive interference on the Houston receiver, to be honest. I think he's playing really well. He's really good. I think you can get explosive plays when Tech blitzes sometimes. Now, you got to get the ball out really quick. You got to read that pre-snap, but I think Pollock's really good. I think Dante Balfour's really good. He made some good plays tonight. He did have he had an interference as well, but he played well. I think Cole Wisniewski is very good. He's an unsung hero, and he does a lot of things, kind of a quarterback. Him and Brendan Jordan, who I think he's really coming on. He's getting better and better. He did give up that long pass when Tech blitzed a couple of guys, and he was kind of left on an island, but he knew it was coming, and he did give it up. But he came back with that interception, so that was really cool. I think the secondary is good. How good? I don't, it's kind of like last year. How bad was the secondary? We're not getting any pass rush as well. So the two kind of go together. Right now, Tech's defense looks as dominant as it ever has in its 100 years of football. It looks as dominant as any defenses I've seen this season in college football. But, it's almost halfway through the season, but I think they'll be tested more. So we're going to find out. But I do think the secondary is, especially you compare it to last year. Night and day difference. But it's a very good secondary. All right. Such a great time. Says R. Such a great timeline to be a Red Raider. It is crazy to think about, but this might be the weakest Tech team we will see within the next decade. This might be the weakest Tech team we see within the next decade. Tech is turning a completely different place. I don't know, man. Here's why. They're bringing in these studs. I just mentioned all those top 10 players and all that, but they are still a little young. The guys they brought in are for this year are like veterans and guys have played 3-4 years. I'm not saying they're not going to go to the transfer portal. They are. They're still going to do that. But at least from a defense standpoint, I don't know if they're going to be that much better than they are right now on defense. Could be up there, but your point in that Tech could be very good for the foreseeable future. The way they're recruiting, it does look like that. Now, how the recruiting game should change over the next couple of years, who knows? But guys like Cody Campbell, John Sellers, let's give Kirby Hoka some love. I was the type of person that he takes the blame as the AD when the football program isn't doing well. I know a lot of factors have gone into this, but we should give Hoka some credit. The whole athletic program looks great. Tech basketball is a top 10 national program. Tech football is trying to get in that stratosphere. And I think Kirby, and not to mention all the other sports, track is like the national program or one of the top 2 or 3. Baseball has been struggling, but has been to 4 Calls World Series since Kirby Hoka's been at 80. I think Kirby Hoka deserves some love, speaking of unsung people. So what I've seen is guys like James Blanchard, Joey McGuire, Cody Campbell, Kirby Hoka, not just be willing to utilize the money that's on hand, but really pick good players, good fits for Texas Tech's culture as well. So, yeah, it looks like this is just we're only getting started with Tech's rise. Kirk, Mr. Sachs 3000 said Kirk Herbstreit best keep our name out of his mouth. Yeah, that guy's just an SEC ESPN guy. He's just a mouthpiece. I really like Kirby Hoka in the past, but some of the stuff like he was saying about Alabama should be in the playoffs last year and all this stuff. Maybe I'm just tired of people telling me things that I know aren't true, and people trying to tell me, "Oh no, you must believe it," just in general. But it's clear to me, for what I do for a living, that he's, just a mouthpiece for ESPN, the SEC. So that's kind of crazy. Such a great timeline to be in as a River. Yep, already read that one. Tech still hasn't played a QB with a pulse. Well, Dampier was pretty good. Wigman was a 4-star recruit. I know that doesn't always translate. Dampier's looked good against everybody else he's played but Texas Tech. So I mean, maybe they go through the season, they'll be like, oh, Tech hadn't played a quarterback with a pulse because they made him look like it. That's just my personal opinion. Sigma 3000 said A&M is solid, but they'll find a way to lose a game that they absolutely shouldn't. He says he's biased, but he really thinks Tech's better than they are. You might be right. I get worried, especially with comparing A&M and Tech, that my bias is going to come through. So I want to see a little bit. From what I've seen at A&M, they're very good. I want to watch a little bit more before I answer that question. Jaron said Dampier is a running back playing quarterback. Call him out. Okay, that's your opinion. I disagree. He is a talented runner who also is a quarterback. He struggled against Tech at times, but I think a lot of quarterbacks are going to struggle against Tech at times this year. He's looked really good against other competition. We've gone 36 minutes. Let's see if there's anything else. I'm sure I missed a couple comments. I'm sorry if I did. A couple questions. Yeah, I agree with J.A. Tech's. The Tech defense is going to make a lot of QBs look bad. I mean, I agree with that. Lucas the Goat says Connor Wigman was a 5-star out of high school. Excuse me. I stand corrected. Thank you. Really happy for the W. I did feel that we played our worst game of the season. I do too. Maybe it's that we left so many points out there. Reckham. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And it's just the sloppy play, the drops, the penalties, the turnover. It's, I don't know about easily correctable, but it is correctable. The penalties are the kind of the most concerning because it seems to be like even against like in Kent State, Tech had a lot of penalties. So they need to get that cleaned up, man. And I'm really surprised that covering Joey McGuire, like even back to Cedar Hill, like I don't remember his team's getting a lot of penalties. And when he first came to Tech, I felt like penalties were way down, and that is a sign of coaching. So that's something to watch going forward. But I mean, you can't argue with the results. I mean, 5 straight 20-plus point victories for the first time in 70-something years. So it's a great time to be a Red Raider. I think that's the best way to say it. Jaron said, there's a reason Wigman got benched and transferred. Fair enough, man. Hey, that's fair. You might be right. I disagree, not by a lot, but I do think Texas Tech's going to make a lot of even good quarterbacks look bad this year. So we'll see if the secondary gets tested more. We'll see if this defense gets tested more by some other quarterbacks. But for now, from what we've seen, man, hallelujah for Red Raider fans out there everywhere. Tech looks fantastic, and they're reaching new heights as a program. So it's really exciting. And I really enjoyed this conversation. Like I said, I was running a little low on energy. A lot of, as I call it, blah, blah today with the radio show and during the game and all the stories and everything. But I love doing this post-game chat. I really appreciate you all joining in and chatting with me. And, man, just, again, congratulations to Tech fans out there everywhere. It's what a time to be alive. But for now, thanks for watching and chatting, and until next time.